Hello, I am Nick Aguilera, and this is day 2 of National Sports Week here. We're talking about latest news in the NBA, NHL, MLB, and our finale is NASCAR a sport or not with our NASCAR analyst James McDaniels alongside Jason Garreline and Carl Mogline. So right now we're gonna start off the show with NBA. Right here we have Blake Duran.
Devine.
Just
Blake Devine.
Yeah, pleasure to be on this show.
Sorry
it's my second time doing it, and happy to be here.
All right, we also got Cameron. You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Cameron. Today I do a lot of shows on here. You probably heard me a ton of times talking about the NBA, so I think you may know who I am.
All right, so let's get to our first subject. We have Kobe Bryant. He said he shattered his recovery timetable. Go ahead, Cameron.
Yeah, he's going to possibly come back as early as training camp, and this is really look. He says that he may claim that he's ready or he's going to come back. I just don't know whether or not Kobe will be ready to carry that offensive load with that injury. And you know what? I don't think the Lakers are going to the playoffs. I think the Lakers should personally tank for Wiggins. That's the best NBA campaign out there. So tank for Wiggins if you're not going to make the playoffs.
All right, so Blake.
Yeah, I would just like to add, the Laker fans are not going to be interested in tanking a season. That's just the mindset of the franchise. They're here to win championships, and they are not accustomed to rebuilding. The Celtics, on the other hand, they have taken a massive rebuilding scheme to kind of redo their franchise, but I do not know if the Laker fans are going to be accepting of this rebuilding scheme. And Kobe Bryant, apparently the owner, Jim Buss, reported that Kobe would probably be back. He wouldn't be surprised if he was back in the preseason. But, I mean, I personally think that Kobe Bryant should just take it easy and get to full strength so that he is able to play well this season. But this season can also be a year where he can rest himself and get himself ready for the 2014 year.
Okay, we have a newcomer here. Noah, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Noah Taborda, and I'd like to say that, first of all, an Achilles is the hardest injury to come back from. Not the ACL, not an MCL, not a PCL, none of that. The Achilles is the hardest injury to come back for because that's what you're walking on every day. And he can't run. If you can't run, you can't play. And especially when you're coming into the end of your career, you can't be injured and playing because you're risking the rest of your career. Sure, Lakers fans don't like tanking, but it's a reality eventually every team has to face. So I guess it's really time for them to just say, you know what, we're going to have a bad year. And they have to start to accept that.
Yeah, I think personally that Laker fans should just admit, and it shouldn't really matter what fans say. All the reality is what the GM and the front office thinks, and that's all that really matters. All the other stuff, that really shouldn't be factored in. It's all about the front office. That's what matters most. Let's go to
our next topic. LeBron would excel as the NBA Players Association president.
Yeah, Oscar Robertson said that. He's a really good person in the NBA community and a great player. I think so too. I think that LeBron really understands from players' perspective, and I think he would really do a good job with them there. I feel like it's too big of a responsibility though for LeBron because again he's playing at a very high level, and it's hard to juggle such a big responsibility trying to be the Players Association president and then try to carry his team all the time. So is it a good thing for the NBA? Yes. Is it going to be stressful for LeBron? We know how stressful that job is. What do you guys think?
Noah?
I'd have to say that he is he's a great guy. He gets a lot of slack for the decision, but that doesn't decide what kind of person he is. He's a good person. Players around the league say that he's not a mean person. He's not a personality that's gonna not talk to anybody. But I think he'd make a good president. I think it's just a really difficult job, and I don't know if he should take it onto his load. I think maybe as he goes into the twilight years of his career, where he's starting to fade, I think it would be a good decision. But for right now, I think he should just stick with being an NBA player.
Yep, I agree on the terms of he would make a great president. He's definitely rebuilt his image with the 2 NBA championships and also the 2 MVPs. He's definitely rebuilt the image that he tarnished through his decision. So he's obviously a widely respected player throughout the league, and I think he'd do a great job of representing the players. But right now, I think his mission is still to win championships, and that would just be another load to his already very heavy inflicting kind of schedule resume. And also there's rumors coming out about not doing the Olympics. So who knows?
All right, so now we got your thoughts on LeBron. Do you guys have any thoughts on anything going around the NBA right now? So you want to start, Cameron?
Yeah, I just think that it's been a crazy offseason with so many of these acquisitions. I think the Detroit Pistons really surprised me. And I'm actually really surprised at the Milwaukee Bucks. I kind of expected better with the Brandon Jennings situation, and I never really thought that they were surrounding good pieces around him. I'm really surprised with what Milwaukee's done. I'm kind of disappointed in them, but I'm really proud for the Detroit Pistons and what they've done. I think they're really close to success. I don't like Josh Smith at the 3 yet, but we'll see how it plays out. They have a lot of great talent, great coach, and Maurice Cheeks, so it's all going to be good for them.
I'd have to agree on Milwaukee. They really tanked it. I mean, O.J. Mayo was possibly one of the worst signings of free agency. A really big contract, not the greatest decision. And the Pistons, they really rebuilt their team, and I think that was a terrific signing of Brandon Jennings. And I think right now what you got to look at, as with the elite teams, you got to see which players have the most role players coming off the bench.
All right, Bryce.
Blake, and I'd just like to add, I think the Clippers did a good job of reloading with Chris Paul re-signing. They got new faces, but arguably their team is just as good as it was last year, although they had a disappointing first-round exit. But I expect high things for them this year in the Pacific Division.
Yeah, I apologize, Blake, for getting your name wrong. All right, so next up, we're going to have MLB with Chris Sylvester and Robert Dieters. And I'm sorry about that. Not Chris Sylvester. So I'll let them introduce themselves. We're going to have Anthony Reifenberg. And Nick Spedford. So they're up next. So let me get them ready, and we'll start on the MLB. All right, we are back. I'm Nick Aguilera, your host tonight. I'm going to let these guys introduce themselves for MLB. Tonight we're going to be talking biogenesis. So, Rob, how about you first?
Hey, I'm Robert Dieters, president, and alongside me is
Anthony Reifenberg here.
David Arredondo.
I'm Nick Aguilera. I'm going to be helping them tonight.
And I'm Nick Spafford.
All right, well, let's go to biogenesis. Big talk so far. Big players suspended today: Nelson Cruz, Johnny Peralta, Everett Cabrera, Francisco Cervelli,
Jesus Montero,
and all those guys. A-Rod so far the only one not accepting a 211 game suspension. And your thoughts about this biogenesis situation? And rumors have been saying Nelson Cruz, is he selfish for not denying that 50-game suspension? Let's go to Anthony first.
Well, I don't really necessarily can call Nelson Cruz selfish as much as trying to be professional about it at this stage. I mean, he's accepted the 50-game suspension. That's something more he can say than an Alex Rodriguez, who's appealing his 211-game suspension.
I think this is a very selfish move because all he did was
use these drugs, become better hitter, and what's his punishment? He sits out for 50 games. He comes back for the playoffs with the Rangers. So there's no real punishment for this except for he misses a couple games and he's back for the playoffs. He's still juiced. He still did what's illegal. And so that's very selfish on his part.
All right, David.
I agree with you, and I feel that he should have just said, "Hey, I did this, and I'll own up to it," and play on, like serve his suspension or whatnot, and keep playing. The team needs him out there.
I'm going to put my opinion out there, too. I think I agree with Rob. He's trying to be as professional as he can. It's a little selfish when he did the drugs, but he's accepting it like a man. He's going to have his 50-game suspension, come back next year. Hopefully he won't be doping. So, yeah, a little colorful word. But I hope he just comes back without the drugs and he has a great season with pure power.
Now going to Texas, Nelson Cruz getting suspended at this point. They have Manny Ramirez still in that farm system, a man that's been suspended a lot. But the Rangers, didn't really have a plan for him at this point. I think the Texas Rangers knew this was coming anyway for Nelson Cruz. Does Manny Ramirez have a chance coming back into Major League Baseball? Let's go back to Anthony.
It depends who you ask. If you ask a fan base around Major League Baseball, they're going to say no. They're tired of hearing of the Manny Ramirez and those type of players. Roger Clemens trying to come up through the farm system. They're just ready to, put that thing to rest. If you talk to maybe people in the organization with the Texas Rangers, maybe they saw the Nelson Cruz situation ahead of time, and that's why they got Ramirez. We won't know that, though, until a couple weeks from now if Ramirez does get that chance or not, and that's going to depend on his competition at this point.
I do not think there's a way that Manny Ramirez comes back into the major leagues. He's old. He can't run. He can't move. DH maybe. He can't hit the ball that far anymore. Unless he uses a cork bat, and he can still be using PEDs as far as we know, right? So I say there's no way he's going to come back to MLB. They have great bench there, and so I think that they're half game back, right? Half game out of the wild card.
Yes, half game out of the wild card.
So, they're going to have to rely around this. People are going to have to step up, but that's what October's about, come down the stretch. People stepping up.
I feel that he won't come back, and that I don't think the Texans are really going to need him or Cruz. Yeah, he's a big bat. He's good on the field, but that's just going to have to show how much heart and stuff to show them to come to play.
I honestly, I think that Manny Ramirez will eventually come up, probably on the 40-man roster in September, but he won't get a lot of playing time due to his history. Just coming back from, I believe, Taiwan. So I don't think he'll get a lot of playing time in September because I think he's going to be on that 40-man roster. But I don't expect him to come up anytime before September.
And, let's go to A-Rod's situation, a man that has not accepted his suspension, 211 games, and still played for the New York Yankees, and Twitter saying his teammates are still wondering why he won't make the decision to accept it. And, in my opinion, this has just been hard on his teammates, hard on the hard on the coach, George Girardi, penciling him in still. He went 1 for 4 today. I just think this is very disappointing for the Yankees. Let's start with David on this one.
I feel that it's not good to even see him playing because, one, today I read an article on SportsCenter that he got booed every time he came up. Clearly the fans don't want to see him. They feel that he did the wrong thing. And I also feel that it's probably going to get worse. The more he plays, the more they look into it, the more they find out. It's just not going to look good on A-Rod or everyone's going to forget about him. It's nothing going to help him.
I honestly think that A-Rod deserves a suspension, and I think that he should just accept it. Appealing, obviously. I think he's just doing that to play with the Yankees, get some playing time in before he actually gets suspended. But once he becomes eligible after that, he may be quite a power for some team. If anyone even signs him due to his history back in Texas getting suspended for use of PEDs also. And I just think that he won't be as effective when he comes back, and I think he should just accept his suspension as it is.
Well, why is his suspension 211 games? Because for first offense, it's 50, right? And that's what the other guys are getting. And for second offense, it's 100 games. And then third offense is lifetime. But why is this boosted up to 211 instead of 100? But, I mean, obviously, he needs to own up to it. He needs to get out. He's not playing baseball right now. But in other Yankee news, Jeter was placed back on the DL today due to a strained calf. So the Yankees are in a tough situation right now, and it's not looking too good for them in the playoff run.
You know, we've known this for quite a while that, you know, the A-Rod situation, even when the beginning of the story broke out, everybody knew A-Rod was the main person involved in, you know, in all of this. And it's just dishonorable for a personal standpoint, a team and franchise standpoint, and then a league standpoint for a player who's, you know, been to the World Series. He's been a face of a franchise to come out and, you know, flatline these allegations and, you know, be the only person, you think about that, the only person to appeal a suspension. I mean, you look at Nelson Cruz. Sure, he's been to the World Series twice in the last 4 years. Is he appealing his suspension? No, he's saying, okay, I'll deal with it. You know,
His is
I'll
also
work
50
rehab.
games.
Well, that is true. Alex Rodriguez is 211.
But that's also because he owned up, like you were saying, Anthony.
Exactly. So, you know, maybe there's a little bit more to the story than we don't know. Maybe that's why it's over 200 games to 2014. But maybe it's his personality. Maybe it's the way he's been handling this. Who knows?
And, you know, as Nick brought up the Derek Jeter injury, going back on the DL once again. And, you know, it's just a coincidence. This guy's just getting hurt. He's not healthy. You know, Jeter might not be playing that much longer. And
He's getting too old.
exactly. And, you know, can you think the Yankees, could they get a wild card spot at this point? The number
No.
2 spot.
No.
Not at all.
I only say
Baltimore is ahead of them.
I only say they
in Tampa
can't
Bay.
because Jeter actually brings something to the table every time he puts his cleats on, right? Yeah, he's there, he's showing up, brings in fans, but I feel you don't have Jeter. You don't have a very good rotation also. Like, you can't play off one pitcher. And I feel that they're definitely not going to get one. And it's going to be a disappointment to New York.
I mean, it's pretty much up to Hiroki Kuroda at this point. You know, CC is way too old in my opinion. A man that still has about 2 more years on his contract. He's not going to do good as a starting pitcher, in my opinion. It's just not gonna be the way it works for the Yankees. They pick up way too old people. They don't have any young talent whatsoever. Their farm system is not very good, in my opinion. And you know, Anthony, just talking about the Yankees this year. I mean, injuries have hurt them. Kevin Youkilis, Kurt Granderson, Teixeira. I mean, those
That's
are
a big
names.
loss right there. That's a big bat that they could have had also.
But how are they, like, you know, sort of in it? Not a lot in it, but how are they sort of still in it with winning record?
Well, when you think about the New York Yankees, they have a lot of veteran guys. You know, you may think about it of them getting, you know, guys that are too old maybe to play. But, you know, they've been there. You know, you've got Kevin Youkilis who's been to the World Series. You've got half of the New York Yankee team was with them in 2009 or 8 when they beat the Philadelphia Phillies and were there 2 years in a row. You know, you've got the core of this team that understands, okay, players are going to get hurt, situations are and are not going to go our way. And, you know, they've been around long enough to know how to deal with that stuff. And that's – I'm not saying that, you know, the players themselves are – you know, their abilities on the field is what's keeping them in it, sort of. It's just they've been here long enough. They know what's going on. They're used to the
When
system.
you're a Yankee, I mean, you have so many veterans around you, so the winning is just part of the Yankee tradition, right? So even if you're I'm not a Yankees fan, I'm saying, even if you're a rookie, you come in, you expect to win, you learn stuff from Derek Jeter, you learn things from Mark Teixeira, and that just trickles into the rookies. So
they have no chance at a wild card. There's too many good teams out there. Tampa Bay Rays, surprising team. Will Myers is doing amazing right now. Christopher Archer, great young pitcher. Matt Moore, David Price starting to step up in that rotation. So I think they can get one of those wild card spots. Baltimore Orioles.
Cleveland's also in the race. They currently have the
Cleveland,
second wild card right
yeah,
now.
Cleveland.
Baltimore's a 1.5 game back.
Yeah,
And
Cleveland.
Texas half game.
But I think Orioles will end up winning that one. So, yeah, that's my thought on that. Yankees have no chance.
Well, let's go over our last question here. Going A-Rod, he went 1 for 4 tonight. A man that, unfortunately, his teammates, as I said before, are wondering why. How long can A-Rod appeal this? Let's go to David first.
I feel he can only appeal for another, if 2 weeks tops. I feel that his agents can only hold off for so long, and that one of them's probably going to break, and they're probably going to get paid for it. But I feel that A-Rod, one, is a disappointment to what he's doing now, and he shouldn't be playing. It should be something inside of him saying this isn't the right thing, and he should just not play.
A-Rod should not be playing right now. I think he should have accepted it like a man. New York Post writing "just go" on their front page. Obviously the only one appealing, and he's gonna ride it out as long as he can. Maybe possibly 4 weeks, up to 4 weeks. But I think it's only gonna go to 2. He's gonna get suspended through 2014, and that's what's gonna happen.
I see him playing a handful more games, probably getting 3 hits in those games, and then he's done.
I'm sorry, Nick. I have to cut you off. We have a caller, Stephen Hughes.
Yeah, so like I was saying, handful of games, and then he's going to be gone. So is it important? No. Do the Yankees even want him? That's another big question. So all I'm saying is he's not going to be here much longer, and I don't care if you just give him charity at bats, but he's gone. So.
All right, and our caller is Stephen Hughes. Stephen, what do you think about this whole thing that we're talking about here?
Are we live right now?
Yes, we are live.
We're gonna talk about Balchus and stuff.
We're talking about the New York Yankees, about A-Rod, and how he did not accept the suspension.
The suspension. He didn't accept it mainly because he doesn't believe that he should be suspended for this long period of time. Plus the fact that he hasn't failed a single drug test in his career. He feels like that defense, with the help of Major League Baseball Players Association, I think that's going to be his only helpful defense in the long run suspension. But this was for the 2014 year, 211 games. That's like the exact number. He plans to appeal, so his suspension is not the best interest of baseball suspension, which under Commissioner Paxil's rule is that type of suspension is when a suspension is come down and is effective immediately. For A-Rod's case, it's effective on Thursday. For the others, like Nelson Cruz, John Peralta, and Eric Guerrero are among the 12 players who reached 50-game suspensions. Those are the best interest of baseball suspensions in connection with that hygienic stuff. So I think A-Rod's defense may not help him out. I think that his suspension is still going to be there, and whenever he starts to serve it, it's going to be a little more ahead for him.
And just one more question before you go, Steven. Going to Derek Jeter's injury, how much does this affect the Yankees?
Not really, because they're not really doing well, and the Yankees really are terrible this year on the offensive end. Mainly because of the injuries. Jeter's been out for the entire year. It seems like he's only played in a few games, so his injury doesn't really mean a lot to the Yankees in the lineup. We have Francisco Cervelli, who's also getting suspended, who's been on the DL since April. Your backup catcher, or actually your starting catcher is right now. Kevin Euclid's out for the year. Mark Teixeira out for the year. You missed Curtis Granderson for a big portion of the year. Now he's finally coming back off the 60-day DL. Then Alex Rodriguez, who seems like he's never going to come back, finally comes back to baseball today, and he only has 2 more games remaining before his suspension becomes effective. So I don't think Jeter's bat is any real impact to make a difference for the Yankees so far. They're fourth place in the American League East, and I think they're going to stay there for the rest of the year. I think it's Orioles, the Rays, and the Red Sox. In my opinion, they've locked up their respective positions in the division. No three is going to represent the AL East for playoffs.
All right, well, thanks, Steven, so much for being on the line, and any last words before you go?
Thanks for having me on. I'll do another Seams All Baseball show later in the week.
All right, thanks, Steven, so much. We'll talk to you later.
And that's going to do it for MLB, guys. Next up, we have NHL with Jacob Seuss, Carl Mogline, Jason Gerline, and Daniel Levy. So I'm just going to step back and let them run this. So this is NHL.
Hello, and welcome to the NHL segment of our show. I am here with Jacob Seuss, and we have team correspondents Daniel Levy and Jason Gerline on our show.
Today we are going to be talking a little hockey for once instead of the normal bias on baseball and basketball. And before we start the show, I'd like to give a shout out to Brandon Byer, our favorite listener out there.
Let's go, Brandon!
I know Brandon really enjoys the music before the show. Okay, so now today we're going to be talking about the Western Conference.
And this is of course, the new division realignment. So we have now 14 teams in the Western Conference and 16 teams in the East, which we will get to tomorrow. But just talking about the West, first we're just going to go run down and look at each division in these conferences just to tell you about these new things. In the Central Division, we have the defending Stanley Cup champions, the Chicago Blackhawks.
And we have a very biased NHL expert today on the show, Daniel Levy, hometown Chicago Blackhawks fan, Blackhawks expert and writer. Daniel, what's your opinion on the Blackhawks this season?
I think not much has really changed with the Blackhawks. A couple of key departures. Ray Emery, the backup goalie, he had a great start to his season, then replaced by Corey Crawford, who obviously had an outstanding year and an even more outstanding playoffs. Another key departure was Dave Bolin. Dave Bolin was a big contributor. And then there's Victor Stalberg, who was another pretty decent contributor for the Blackhawks. But their core group has not changed, even since their 2010 Cup run. And I really think that this is the same team, more or less the same team, that made their previous Stanley Cup run, and I don't see anything that's stopping them from doing it again this year.
Well, thank you, Daniel. And do you have anything else to add, Jacob?
I do think the Blackhawks will be very competitive this season. I know the Western Conference really tried to improve each team as a whole because the Blackhawks did dominate so much, especially during the small 48-game regular season last year. So each team did try to improve, so that will be better competition to the Blackhawks.
And, of course, the Blackhawks last year had the amazing 24-game streak without a regulation loss. That was absolutely outstanding. And, of course, at the end of the season, champions of the NHL. And now we are going to move on to our next team in the Central Division, the Dallas Stars. And this is a team, they've got a new head coach, and they got a few new changes, and they're looking to come off a somewhat disappointing season last year. Did not make the playoffs, and of course changing divisions, going from where the Pacific was to the new Central Division in this newer realignment. Jacob, please, your thoughts.
Well, Lindy Ruff, coming over from the Buffalo Sabres, is going to be a good addition. He is going to be a veteran face behind the bench to teach the Dallas Stars, to teach their young rookies, and give them a good aspect on the game. They did add a couple good players, which will keep them more competitive. The most notable was the trade, which did bring Tyler Seguin over from the Boston Bruins to the Dallas Stars. I know that the Bruins felt that Tyler Seguin really wasn't a good impact on the team in the locker room. But the kid is only 21 years old, and he has potential.
And of course, he was the second overall pick in the draft, and I believe he was behind who was it Taylor Hall? Yes, it was, I believe. Then you also got Sergei Gonchar coming on as another key contributor there, and not a ton of key losses. I think the only one I could say maybe Louis Erickson.
Oh yeah, they added Rich Peverly. He's going to be huge for them on the second, possibly third line. I think the Dallas Stars could definitely compete this year, maybe a 7-8 spot in the Western Conference.
All right, now we're going to move on to our next team, the Colorado Avalanche. Of course, another team who has now new teams playing against them, but of course, a very interesting season for them. They got the first overall pick, and why don't you talk about the player that they got in that, Nathan MacKinnon?
Well, Nathan MacKinnon is going to be very good for the Avalanche. I know they've been scouting him for a long time. Since they realized that this past season wasn't going to be big for them. They came into the draft really scouting him, and they wanted him. Carl, what are your thoughts on
I
him?
really do like this player. He was on the championship team for the Canadian Hockey League. That is the major governing body of junior hockey in Canada. Of course, he was on a team in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and he was the MVP of that league, as well as one of the top players in the entire CHL. So of course, and but the guy I look to make the biggest impact on this whole team is the biggest coach, I think, new coach, you could say, Patrick Wall coming in, a legend. And Jacob, please tell us about how you think this is going to impact them.
I think it's going to be great for them. I mean, they have a lot of young guys, and they're looking for a leader. And we saw Patrick Waugh during his playing days. He had a lot of fire. He had a lot of passion for the game, and he's going to be great for the Avalanche, especially behind the bench. He's going to get these players going, really make them nice and competitive for this season, Carl.
And that is a very good point. And now we're going to move on to the St. Louis Blues. A little bit of a disappointing season for them last season. They had made the playoffs a couple years ago, but last year, just not the same team. Key additions for this team, Keith Aucoin, a good forward, Maxime Lapierre, and those are a couple key forwards for them. And then they didn't lose a ton either, but please tell us your thoughts on this team's prospects for the season.
Well, I'm going to start off by talking about the Blues' expectations for the season. Last year, they were supposed to be one of the top teams in the West, and they really didn't make much of a march towards the playoffs. And they really didn't do much in the offseason either, and that surprised me. A team that was supposed to be very good and really did very little especially towards the end of the season, really needed to add more depth, especially on the forward position, and they really didn't. They did steal Keith Aucoin from my New York Islanders. He was a great forward. I think the best centerman on the fourth line in the league. And
hard worker.
Right. He has spent a lot of years in the minors, and he is well deserving of his professional position right now. And they did add Maxime Lapierre. He will also be a good forward for the Blues. I'm really not sure what to expect from this season, but I definitely would predict it to be on a high note.
Yeah, I do think that team is trending upwards. Now we're going to move on to our next team in this Central Division, and that is the Nashville Predators. Another team who really disappointed. A worse team in the Western Conference.
I mean, I don't know if anyone remembers, but me and Carl did a prediction show about this same time last year, and I said Nashville was going to the Cup.
Well, I said the Blues, so I guess we both were pretty wrong. The two of the worst teams in the Western Conference are picks. That shows how much of experts we are. But I am an expert on a couple things, and one of those is the Portland Winterhawks, and their best player coming out of that team was a player named Seth Jones, and he is a special defenseman. Let me tell you, he is the son of former NBA great Popeye Jones. He grew up in Colorado. Joe Sakic taught him how to skate. He is a great story, and he dropped surprisingly to the fourth overall pick, which all I can say is going to give him more fire in his belly, especially getting passed over by his hometown Colorado Avalanche. I think that is a huge pick. And I really don't see this team losing a lot. And, of course, they have Pekka Rinne in net. Please tell us a little bit about that outstanding goalie.
Well, Pekka Rinne has been one of the top goalies in the NHL for the past couple of years now, but this is his time to shine. This is his time to really lead the Predators throughout the season. he is expected to play almost 3/4 of the season, and he's at an age where he can do that. He has a lot of stamina, and he is going to be able to lead the Predators toward the playoffs if he can keep his consistency in net and really keep that goals per game average really low, which is nice and expected for him.
All right, I would like to have a quick break in the coverage to talk about a sad moment. Former Red Wing Sean Burr has passed at 47. He spent most of his 16 seasons with the Detroit Red Wings, and he has spent the past 3 years battling leukemia and has died at the age of 47. He was a former first-round pick in the 1984 NHL draft. He was the number 7 overall pick. He played with Detroit. He also played with San Jose and Tampa Bay Lightning before retiring in 2000. He finished with 181 goals, 440 points in 887 regular season games. He will be severely missed, and it's a very sad loss for this team. It's a dear loss to the Red Wings organization, and we will see if the Red Wings do make a statement. Of course, this is breaking news. But now back to the preview of this NHL season.
Okay,
We're going to go to Winnipeg, which is a team, a very interesting team. Of course, last year was their first year after moving from Atlanta, from being the Thrashers, and they actually play in the smallest stadium capacity-wise in the NHL, but they have a great attendance percentage and a great fan base. They're a team that looks to be on the up, and they have a couple key additions. I like Devin Setaguchi, a former Sharks forward and a Wild forward as well. A great forward. He works hard, and he's a great player. Anything you look to see on this team that looks interesting to you?
You know what? Just as the Jets are a young team, as you said, great attendance. The fans really happy to get a hockey team back there. Now it's time for the Jets to pay those fans back. I expect them to work hard with the new additions and definitely make a good run at the playoffs this year, Carl.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And of course, one more thing about them, they do have a couple players who could really make or break this team. Andrei Pavlich is their goalie, and he has been great at times, but at other times has just not been on par.
They need him to be consistent.
They do need his consistency, and but a good thing for them is they have locked up quite a few players. Brian Little, Blake Wheeler, and Zach Bogason. They've locked up these players on long-term deals, and that looks very good for them looking into the future. I also look for this team to be on the uprise and to close out this division, the Central Division. We're going to go
one more word on Zach Bogason. He's definitely one of the best upcoming defensemen in the league.
That is very true. And now we're going to go to this last team in this Central Division, the Minnesota Wild, a team that I know Jacob really, really likes.
I was very high on them last season.
Yes, you were. But now they look to have restocked a few players, but they also lost a couple. A key loss that I see, of course, Devin Setaguchi, we talked about earlier, but Cal Clutterbuck, he's more of an enforcer type. He's fourth line.
Can you tell me what team Clutterbuck went to again? I forgot.
I can tell you what team Clutterbuck went to. He went to the New York
Oh,
Islanders.
no.
A team you know so much about, Jacob.
And we also stole Pierre-Marc Bouchard from them.
I feel like Minnesota is sending all their players, and they're going to be New York Islanders. They're going to be the Minnesota Wild East now, aren't they?
Yes, and I very much like those two players. And the player that the Islanders sent to the Wild in that trade was Nino Niederreiter, a young prospect who the Islanders have been riding on for the past three seasons out of Switzerland. And I really think that he's really not going to make a big impact on the Wild. The Islanders were high on him for a while, but then he really didn't make much of an impact in the AHL, so the Islanders really never gave him a chance, and he was really becoming a pain in the butt down there. Demanded to be brought up when they didn't bring him up, demanded to be traded, and he got his wish. So have fun in Minnesota, Nino.
And then a couple other players, of course, they also got Matt Cook as an addition, but the thing is,
I'm happy to get Matt Cook as an Islander fan. I'm happy to get him out of Pittsburgh. He's a pain.
All right. Now we're going to go and actually look at the players that are already on this team. Of course, they have Charlie Coyle, a former first round pick of the San Jose Sharks, traded away. They also have another former Shark, Danny Heatley. Devin Setaguchi is another for. I feel like this is the team of Sharks and Islanders, don't you?
Yeah, I really don't think the Wild are going to do much this year.
No,
they're going to be quiet.
They seem so good, but I think they might be trending just straight across, if not down. They are not looking that good. Oh, look, they have another former Shark on them, Torrey Mitchell. Now that is very interesting. And overall, I think on this Central Division, it is a division that is trending slightly upward. And now we are going to head on to the Pacific Division, and we're going to talk first about a couple Canadian teams, starting with the Calgary Flames. This is a team that has
So how about we start off by talking about the Flames, about the floods that went on in Calgary.
Yes.
Their stadium, the floodwater was almost up to 5 levels, and
Jacob, I'm so sorry. I hate to interrupt you. We actually have a caller. This is Cameron Sadeghi, and here we go.
hello,
Hi, Cameron.
caller.
Cameron. Do you have a question for us, or do you have a comment, sir?
Because we don't take comments, we take questions.
I hate the Sharks, stole my passion, and you think it's so great to talk about this team that always chokes in the playoffs? What do you know about hockey? You have a show. How's that? Well, what's your credibility? Do you really know hockey? Do you really know the Canadian Hockey League? I know more about the Canadian Hockey League than you ever wish, Carl.
I would tend to doubt that, seeing that I have followed intensely that league for many years, and I highly doubt that I have a.
There goes Cameron.
We lost him. Silly cell reception. Too bad. I really will miss.
Great response.
I know we'll be blocking that number. Cameron, you cannot be calling back, so do not try. Thanks for the call, though. We appreciate it.
And now we will continue to the preview. Calgary Flames, starting with of course, there were floods in Alberta. There's huge relief efforts going up there, but that was a sadly thing. But the key losses on this team, of course, Mika Kiprusoff is likely retiring. They've gained young Sharks forward TJ Gagliardi is a key one. Also, a couple of other people, Kerry Ramo, a big addition for them, but not a team I look to do anything much on this team. Then we go on to Edmonton, a team I really do like, and this is a new team to the Pacific Division, another Canadian team. But this team is just got tons of young talent, multiple first-round picks. They have 3 in a row. Just outstanding, led by so many young, great players, and actually surprisingly active offseason for some players who weren't even that great, but they got moved around. They got a solid goalie in Jason LaBarbera. He used to be with the LA Kings, and the LA Kings paid quite a bit to do this trade. I am really shocked by that, because he really did not need to move. But they also lost Nikolai Hobby-Bulin off this team, so they really did need it for the Oilers.
You know what? The Oilers are really trying to go young, and I really like that. As you can see, the Oilers are getting rid of their old veterans. They got Andrew Ference from Boston, and I really like that move. I expect the Oilers, with their young team, to possibly make a run at the division title
And
this
I would
year.
like to talk about one other goalie, Devin Dubnyk, who has had a really great season last year coming in. I really did like this young goalie, and I think he will come back and have another good season. You also got Justin Schultz on defense, and that's another good player. But looking at the 3 first overall picks they had in a row, Nail Yakupov, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Taylor Hall. This is offensive power. Sam Gagner, Jordan Everly, just an outstanding young core of players. I look at this offense as extremely strong. The one weakness I see is their defense, and I think that will end up being fixed. And now we're going to go on to the Los Angeles Kings, and we have a LA Kings expert here in Jason Garreline.
I don't know if you listen to Jason's shows, the Jason Sports Show. He's now blasting the LA Kings goal horn.
So
he is probably the most biased expert in the business.
I beg to differ.
Yes,
Daniel Levy's up there as well. So, Jason, why don't you get rid of the Kings goal horn and tell me about the Kings of this upcoming season?
All right. If these weirdos will stop talking while I'm trying to talk.
Sorry, Jason. Continue.
So let's talk Kings. Kings did a lot of signing. They signed their captain, Mr. Dustin Brown, the toothless wonder, to an 8-year deal. That's a fact. They bought in they signed a bunch of their role players like Clifford, and they signed a lot of they signed a lot of their they signed a lot of good players. Kyle Clifford, of course, he signed. I'm trying to find other players, but
Jason, do you think that the Kings have a shot at the Cup this year?
The Kings have been playing pretty well for a team that's coming off a Stanley Cup win and having a little bit of that Stanley Cup hangover, I think they did pretty well for themselves, making it to the Western Conference Finals, but of course losing to Daniel's Blackhawks. I think the Kings will do well enough. They will beat the Sharks out, and they probably will be better than the Ducks this year. The Kings, ever since they got Daryl Sutter on their team, they've been doing very well. And
I think you're wrong. I think the Kings might come in last place in that division.
I do agree that they probably are not going to do as well as many had hoped in the LA area. I like the Anaheim Ducks more than that team for the area. But let's talk about them. One of the key additions is to add an extra goalie is Ben Scrivens. He's a good player to add to that team. And then Jonathan Bernier was a key loss for them off their side, but it really wasn't a huge offense season for them. Of course, led by Jonathan Quick as one of their best players.
One of the best scorers in LA or the California Leafs, Jeff Carter.
Good night, Jason.
Good night, Jason. And
Jeff Carter can score, okay?
Yes, and Jeff Carter is a very good player for that team. Now we're moving on, Jason.
The Kings, for the record, the Kings had the best.
Go home, Jason.
Record.
You're drunk.
Had the best home record in the NHL.
Goodbye.
All right,
great
now
to have you.
And
now we probably won't have you back again, but it was a good one-time wonder, Jason.
And now we're moving on. We're moving on to the San Jose Sharks, the team I know.
I wonder how President Robert Dieters is reacting to the chaos.
All right. And now we are going to move on to this team that has been consistently a playoff performer.
I would like to comment on the Sharks. Do you remember when they were in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Finals, 19 never?
You're going to go there. All right. Now we're actually going to talk
about the Coyotes.
All right. Let's go on to the San Jose Sharks. They did not do much. They lost their backup goalie in Thomas Greiss, and they lost Scott Gomez, and they traded away TJ Gagliardi for good picks, so that was a good trade. And they gained Tyler Kennedy from the Penguins. They all over together.
For a team that could use a couple of forwards, that wasn't much of off-season additions, Carl.
No, but I think they will have a good team, especially because Adam Burridge is transferring completely up to forward instead of going back and forth. That is a huge piece for him. But now you're going to have Alex Statlaw coming up. He's a young goaltending prospect. He's been in the system for a long time, but he's excelled for the Worcester Sharks. I look to him as a good backup goalie, and but also their defense is just getting stronger and stronger.
I predict
led by
the Sharks will be very competitive with the Kings for last place in that division.
Wow! All right, I just want to ask Jacob a couple questions. I just want to ask him about the facts that he thinks Calgary is going to be better than both the LA Kings and the San Jose Sharks.
Oh yeah, Calgary's going to be great. But even if you don't have Calgary, we still haven't talked about the last three teams in that division.
Yeah, let's go on.
All three are going to be the best.
Didn't do anything.
Vancouver Canucks, Phoenix Coyotes, Anaheim Ducks, all will compete to win that division.
Well, of course, Vancouver.
Have fun in the basement, Jason, with the Kings.
Whatever.
And the Vancouver Canucks finally got rid of Roberto Luongo, a great deal for them.
They didn't get rid of Luongo, Carl. They got rid of Corey Schneider. They're still stuck with Lou.
Why would anybody want Luongo? That's the question I ask.
I don't know. They were talking a long time for getting rid of Luongo, and all of a sudden they got rid of Corey Schneider. I really don't know where that came from. Considering Luongo's old, Schneider's young, Schneider's better.
That is true.
Fun fact, the last time the Canucks won a playoff game was with Schneider.
Fun fact, when was the last time the Canucks won the Cup? Oh, the last time, it was the same year the Sharks won the Cup.
And looking at this, also an interesting thing, they literally switched coaches with the New York Rangers. They both fired their coach and they signed with the other teams. I find that absolutely pointless. Also, they gained a couple of players, but it was really a quiet season for them. Now we're going to move on to the Phoenix Coyotes, a team that was really underperforming.
Love the Coyotes.
Are they a minor league team or what?
Actually, no. Big news about the Phoenix Coyotes. They actually got an owner now instead of being owned by Gary Bettman. One of the worst owners of all time because he is the commissioner of the NHL and nobody likes him. David Stern's worse. That is untrue. Okay. Now we're going to look at this roster. You look at them, and they do not look at... Of course, they have Mike Smith as a big backstop in net.
Actually, I heard a big stat that there are more people that attend the local women's basketball team than a Phoenix Coyotes game.
Really?
That's not possible because no one attends either.
No one. Actually,
there's negative 15,000 people at Coyotes people. There are people being removed from the stadium before games.
Tickets
are being given back.
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Not a great situation there. And then we're going to go to our last team. Hopefully a team we can seriously talk about in the Anaheim Ducks, although I doubt we can since their former name is the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. Please, Jacob, spread your wisdom.
Well, I really wish they would go back to the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim because those jerseys are the best of all time. But that's just my opinion. Let's talk about the Ducks today. They really didn't do much except for the Bobby Ryan trade, which was kind of absurd in my opinion. I don't know why they would want to give him up to the Ottawa Senators. And they did gain Dustin Penner, not Justin, from the Los Angeles Kings, and he'll be good, but nowhere near close to replacing Bobby Ryan. And we have a call. It's Cameron again. No, I'm not answering it. Okay, continue with the Ducks.
All right, now we're gonna just really quickly say I think this Ducks team could be very good. I think it's gonna be I think the Ducks will make the playoffs this year. I also put the Sharks, the Kings, Phoenix, Edmonton in the playoffs. I have Vancouver missing it, and on the other side, St. Louis, Minnesota, and Chicago. But that is all the time we have to do on this show. For Jason Seuss, I'm Carl Mogline. Thank you for listening, and we will go on to. Oh, wait 1 second.
Jason has one thing to add before we go.
Jason has one thing to say.
Very urgent.
That's the King's goal horn, if anyone doesn't know. Kingston.
Okay, you all smell. Good night. I'll be back, though.
Thank you for listening.
Okay, that was NHL. A very colorful broadcast. So next we're going straight into college football. So right here, you guys want to introduce yourself? Go ahead.
Blake Devine spoke a little earlier today.
About baseball.
NBA.
All right, NBA.
Yeah. Nick Spatafore also spoke earlier on MLB. But from Corvallis, Oregon, so a big Beavers fan, and I'm also a diehard LSU fan. So bringing insight from the Pac-12 and the SEC.
And we got one more guy here. Introduce yourself.
Chris Sylvester, Chris's Corner, National Sports Member, Day 1. What do I just want to know?
Who wants to start it off with a topic? Any kind of topic you guys want to talk about?
Johnny Manziel. I mean, we talked about that last night. I mean, we kind of want to get by.
We can just go on the preseason AP rankings.
So,
I saw the coaches poll came out. Shocker, Alabama number 1.
Yeah, outright. I mean, and then in second we had Ohio State,
which I'd say is respectable. When they went undefeated, Grant, they have the easiest schedule I've ever seen in my life. Oh wait, Alabama, except for they have to play tough LSU and A&M and Arkansas. But their SEC opponents in the East. So for those out there, it's split into East and West standings. SEC. Alabama plays teams in West play 2 teams from teams in East. And Alabama has the easiest cream of crop, I think. Kentucky and Tennessee, Vandy, some crap teams like that. Instead, where other teams are playing Georgia and Florida in the same season.
Yeah, and then number 3 we had Oregon. Not surprising, despite Chip Kelly going to the Eagles, but not surprising. They've been very consistent. But Stanford,
true freshman quarterback coming back sophomore year.
Marcus Mariota had a great year last year as a true freshman. Yes.
Yeah. I think he was overshadowed by the Heisman winner Manziel, but I mean he was up there. I mean there was a lot of good freshman quarterbacks last year. You had right now we're at UCLA right now. We had the UCLA quarterback.
Right.
Brent Hundley.
Yeah. He had a fantastic season last year. You had Everett Golson. Unfortunately, he's not going to play at Notre Dame this year, but he led Notre Dame to the national championship. Put it that way last year. Along with their great defense, of course.
But back to Mariota. I mean, that dude could run.
Yeah, I know. I think that he was overshadowed, and I think, like I said, Golson and Hundley were overshadowed too. I mean, there was a lot of great quarterbacks for BCS teams leading them to bowl games last year.
A true freshman, so great recruiting class.
And they got DeAnthony Thomas. Too.
Yeah,
of course. DeAnthony Thomas, probably. I'd say Heisman candidate every year, but I think the most athletic freak in college football.
Yeah, definitely.
He's the most athletic guy in college football.
And then I don't know if you've seen, but recently SportsCenter released photos of Oregon's new training facility, and it looks absolutely fantastic. So you should check that out on Sports Illustrated.
Stuff.
And
Uncle Phil helped him out.
Yeah, definitely donations. And then moving on now, we have number 4, Stanford, who won the Pac-12 last year, surprisingly, with
And
their
I
upset
I
victory.
wouldn't be surprised to see them go back to the Rose Bowl again. I mean,
100th Rose Bowl.
they return their quarterback. You know, they lost some of their good tight ends and their running back Stephen Taylor, but you know, they still bring back a strong core on the defensive end too. And you know, a lot of people thought when Jim Harbaugh left, when Andrew Luck left, it would take Stanford a little bit of time to get back to that elite program that they were with Andrew Luck, but you know, they didn't skip a beat at all and actually did what Andrew Luck couldn't do, and that was bring home a Pac-12 championship and a Rose Bowl victory.
Yeah, total opposite style from Oregon. I mean, it seems like last year they were Oregon's kryptonite. Oregon just was unstoppable speed-wise, and Stanford just runs the total opposite style.
Mm-hmm.
But when they compete, it's just quite a game because you have just contrasting styles across the field.
You have a more of a pro style that Stanford runs compared to that crazy wild duck spread, that crazy no huddle offense that Oregon possesses.
And we'll see how that also transfers to the NFL.
With Chip
Kelly
Kelly. That'll
trying to
be,
bring that
I
in,
think,
the Eagles.
you know, a lot of people tired of hearing about the Eagles, but I'm actually excited to see what they can do, not trying to get off topic to go to NFL.
Yeah, and then at 5th, we have Georgia, led by their star quarterback, Aaron Murray, coming back for his senior year.
I like
Georgia is for real.
Georgia is for real. I think Georgia can I think Georgia's one of those teams that can find their way back to the SEC championship once again. Obviously, a bitter ending to last year's SEC
no BCS
championship
bowl game due to the
it was tough. It was tough for Georgia last year, but you know, I mean, they got a stronger core returning. They got a strong core returning. They lost Jarvis Jones, right? They
lost a bunch of inside linebackers.
They lost a lot on defense, but I mean, being in the SEC, being the Georgia Bulldogs, you're always going to get good recruits. You're always going to have upperclassmen who were lowerclassmen kind of, you know, in these guys' shadows who come up and make big plays. So I think a lot of analysts are saying too, and I have to agree with this, is that, you know, Georgia might be the team to beat in the SEC. We're all caught up in the Alabama hype. We're caught up with Johnny Football at Texas A&M, but Georgia could very well be the team to beat in the SEC when it's all said and done.
I agree.
Also, to add in there, their strong side linebacker James Deloche will be undergoing surgery on Monday, sprain his ulnar collateral ligament in the thumb. So, but he should be back for season opener. But that is a little bit of a hurt to their defense.
Yeah, certainly. But that's why we go through these training camps to make sure the injuries happen now and not during the season, I guess.
Yep. And then moving on, in 6th we have Texas A&M and that infamous Johnny Manziel.
All the drama going around Johnny Manziel. I mean, don't get me wrong, Texas A&M, a fantastic football team, went into Alabama, went into Tuscaloosa last year, and you know, didn't care.
They silenced Bryant-Denny Stadium.
They silenced that whole crowd. They silenced what, 90,000?
A crap load of people.
Yeah, a gang of people out in Tuscaloosa. They silenced last year, but I can't see I can't see Johnny Manziel getting better from last year. I'm not expecting a slump, but with everything that's going on now, with the NCAA violations possibly coming down on him in Texas A&M because of the autographs, on top of all his off-the-field issues with the beer, getting kicked out of the Manning camp, and everything, I just think that I just can't see Texas A&M doing what they did last season, and I honestly think Alabama's going to go into College Station in front of 102,000 because they upgraded the seating there.
Yeah.
Alabama's going to go into Texas A&M.
They're going to win.
And they're going to win. If Manziel plays or if Manziel doesn't play, I expect Alabama to come away with a Week 3 victory at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
That's going to be a good game. And that's going to be a good testament to see if Johnny Manziel is who he was last year.
And if Alabama kind of tried to figure it out. And if really any SEC defenses at all can pick up what Johnny Manziel can do.
And I'd just like to add, this year, Texas A&M is going to have to deal with quite a media circus because of Manziel. And last year they kind of snuck
under the radar for a while, and then Manziel had a big game at Louisiana Tech.
Kind of put him in the Heisman.
In the Heisman. Got the nickname Johnny Football, and then of course, you know, there they go into Tuscaloosa. They upset the number 1 team in the nation, and therefore your Heisman winner, your Johnny Drama, is born, and that's what's led to a lot of the
stuff off the field this offseason.
Yeah, the pressure will be there. And then in 7th, we have South Carolina with Steve Spurrier and the famous
Javion Clowney.
Yeah, what a hit versus Michigan. Still buzzing from
Yeah,
that hit.
it's
and just
still
let him
buzzing
into a
and-
crazy offseason.
Obviously, he's projected number 1 overall pick in the upcoming NFL draft. But I mean, we've seen players who are projected to go number 1 choke. We saw Matt Barkley last year. He was a sure bet to go 1, and his team finished under 500. I'm not saying obviously it's just a defensive player compared to a quarterback, but if you're a young guy like Jadeveon Clowney going into your junior season, you just got to keep grinding. You got to keep hustling, and you got to keep being that aggressive player that you were your first 2 seasons there, because it's not going to get any easier. Teams are going to double front you on the offensive front, and it's not going to be as easy for Jadeveon Clowney. But like I said, I mean, that hit was spectacular. Like it was ridiculous. One of the best you'll see all time, honestly, especially at the collegiate level, really out of any level.
I'm excited to see though how their offense does. They had some quarterback troubles last year.
Obviously, Marcus Lattimore unfortunately went down with that injury.
He's now in the NFL.
He's off to the NFL. Hopefully, you saw Willis McGahee rebound from something just like that. So hopefully, Lattimore can get back on his feet. But yeah, Steve Spurrier and the Gamecocks, they're going to be contenders as well in the SEC. But there's just too many good teams in the SEC.
That's
and they're
SEC
a good team
East
too.
So they got Georgia and Florida
They
over
got
there.
Georgia and Florida. I don't know if Florida's going to
Atlanta.
be. I think South Carolina is a little bit better of a team than Florida, but I think Georgia's going to be a real tough test for them. And of course, it's the SEC. You never know. Anything can happen on any given night.
Very stacked, as it always is. And in 8th, we have their rival Clemson, who is going to be the favorite. And,
I think they are ranked too high.
Yeah, I definitely.
They do have a returning Heisman candidate in
Taj Boyd. Yeah,
who had a great year last year in the ACC.
Taj
But
Boyd.
also they play in the ACC.
Yeah,
Florida State,
Florida.
Clemson.
Yeah,
you can make the argument
that
for
is
Virginia
not.
Tech.
There's some decent teams out in the ACC, but there's nobody that really catches your eye. I mean, we had Florida State in the top 5 for a while last year with EJ Manuel. Of course, he was the first quarterback selected in this year's NFL draft by the Buffalo Bills. I mean, you saw EJ Manuel had potential. I mean, they went to the BCS Bowl. They beat Northern Illinois. That was kind of a fun game to watch.
Very good defense last year.
Maction.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see all those top recruits though. This year in their junior years, right? They're starting to get older guys. I'm excited to see them.
I'm excited to see that for Florida State.
Their talent come out.
But yeah, like you said, I think Clemson's ranked a little bit too high. I think they still deserve to be a top 25 squad, but I think Georgia's really going to expose them in week 1.
It'll be a very good
but let's not forget, Clemson beat LSU last year on New Year's Eve. That was a great game.
I don't want to talk about it.
That was a fantastic game. But
they really
and
proved real,
Clemson is for real, but I just don't think they can hang with Georgia come opening day.
Yeah. And then moving on, we have Louisville in 9th, who beat Florida in the Sugar Bowl.
And this is a team.
Surprising game.
This is a team. This is my sleeper team, if you want to call them that, because they are still ranked 9th in the country. They are coming off of a Sugar Bowl victory.
Teddy Bridgewater.
Teddy Bridgewater is for real. People are already starting to compare him to Johnny Football. We're just starting to see what he could do at the end of last season for Louisville. You put Teddy Bridgewater in that Louisville offense. You add Michael Dyer, the 2011 MVP from the BCS championship.
He's going to be on a short leash, too.
He'll be on a short leash, but I like that ad for Louisville. I think it adds depth at the running back position for them. And on top of a dual threat guy like Teddy Bridgewater, this guy is a competitor. This guy is a fighter. This guy is a winner. And I expect Louisville to go out there and in this new American Athletic Conference, the AAC, with some weaker competition. You have some teams coming over from Conference USA, SMU, Houston. I think the schedule's a little bit easier for them, but I really do like Louisville's chances of finishing in the top 5, and you never know, possibly making it to the national championship game because, like I said, Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater is for real, and you kind of saw it with Notre Dame last year. They played some ranked teams here and there, but they didn't have the hardest of schedules like a lot of the SEC teams. But yet the BCS
they showed up for the BCS game.
Finally, the last year of the BCS system before we move into that playoff format come next season. I wouldn't be surprised to see Louisville. in that national championship game.
Yeah, and then just adding on away from that subject, in 10th we have Florida, the Gators, just another SEC team, which leaves
Another
us,
team.
I don't like this pick. I do not think that Florida should be ranked so high after coming off a huge loss. All right, they're expected to go in there.
Oh yeah, they were supposed to.
Right.
They were supposed
Will
to.
Muschamp had a great year though. I mean, he really turned it around. For the first
I
season.
like Will
Yeah.
Muschamp. He's always a guy with a lot of enthusiasm, going back to his days as the defensive coordinator with the Texas Longhorns. You know, Will Muschamp. I think he's the right guy to have replaced Urban Meyer. Obviously, not gonna fill those shoes. I mean, it's hard to fill those shoes with Coach Meyer, but I like what he's done with the program. You know, getting to the BCS game, getting to a BCS bowl last year, I think was a step back in the right direction. Obviously, this team with Tim Tebow, thrived for many seasons down there, and Urban Meyer had some great squads, but I think Florida is finally on their way back. Jeff Driscoll is another fantastic young quarterback that we saw get into the action last year, and I expect him to have another big season this season. And I think Florida will be a better team this year.
I think they're going to drop out of top 10 though, just because of their schedule.
I think just because
they
of the
might
schedule.
be around in the season around like 22 because they gotta go play
at
LSU.
They got to play at LSU.
At South Carolina.
Mhm. Those are going to be tough games.
And you always have Florida State's at home this year, and Georgia's at home.
And they got to play an underrated Miami team week 1.
Yeah.
I mean, you never know week 1 because we see some crazy things happen every week 1 with ranked teams. So I just think that I agree. Florida's ranked a little bit too high. I think they're going to be better on the offensive side of the ball than last season, and I really like what Will Muschamp is doing, but I just don't think they're going to find themselves back into a BCS game.
Yeah, definitely. And then moving on now, we have our 11 through 15 teams, including Notre Dame at 11th, Florida State at 12th, LSU at 13th, Oklahoma State at 14th, and Texas at 15th. So anything to add on those
I'm just
teams?
saying, so I'm biased here. I'm a big LSU fan, and I am very excited for the season. We added Cam Cameron as QB coach, and I know you don't know him. He was with the Baltimore Ravens for a long time. He's a great guy, very good coach. So I think he's gonna teach Mettenberger a few things. He has the arm.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's just know what to do with the football in certain situations. And I mean, LSU, they have the talent. They have what it takes. They just have a tough schedule. They're going to have to play at Georgia, at Mississippi State, and they have Florida at home, which is good. And they have back-to-back weeks, or they actually have a bye week, but they have at Alabama, which is going to be rough. But the past 2 visits, we've beat them there.
Yes.
So that's good, but it's still going to be a rough game. And then we also have Texas A&M at home. And obviously Battle of Boot, Arkansas. But I think...
Yeah, I mean, you look at any SEC team.
In that SEC West, though, everyone's just been talking about Texas A&M and Alabama.
Johnny football, yeah.
And I'm excited to see LSU flying low, a little disrespected by a 13. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited for them to come
I think
fire
part of that was because
win some games.
Because of the loss to Clemson at the end of last year. I think the preseason rankings kind of have a little bit to do what you look on paper this year and what you did last season. So, LSU, like you said, Zach Mettenberger entering his senior season. This guy was a top quarterback coming out of junior college. Great job of the Mad Hatter, Les Miles, by picking him up. And I agree with you. I think LSU's gonna find themselves in the top 10 when it's all said and done.
Yeah. Also, good news for Tigers fans: Jeremy Hill, who was released from the team, getting a fight with a guy, was just reinstated after judges did not send him to jail. So your leading rusher is back.
Yeah, great news. And that SEC with 5 teams in the top 10 and 6 overall in your preseason top 25. So it's just going to be a very competitive.
Can't wait for college football season, man.
Oh yeah,
a month.
Yeah, and then
less than a month.
Just concluding, we have Oklahoma at 16th, Michigan at 17th, Nebraska at 18th, Boise State, who's always up there, 19th, TCU at 20th, UCLA 21st, Northwestern 22nd, Wisconsin 23rd, USC 24th, and Oregon State 25th.
I just want to make a couple points there.
Just add whatever you like on those teams.
I think it's going to be a rough going for teams like Oklahoma and Michigan. Oklahoma loses
Very
Landry
tough schedule,
Jones.
yes.
They lose Kenny Stills, their top receiver. To both those guys were drafted in the middle rounds of the NFL draft. So Oklahoma's not going to be the same Sooner offense, that same Sooner attack that we're used
Even with
to.
Blake the Belldozer?
Even with the Belldozer, I like what he's done in those short yardage situations. I mean, he's had a lot of big scores for Oklahoma, but I don't know how he's going to be carrying the load.
The ball either.
Have we seen Blake Bell consistently throw the football? I haven't seen it, and it's going to take me a while for really me to believe in Blake Bell. And then you go over to Michigan. Obviously, Denard Robinson was banged up for the latter portion of last season, and we kind of saw what the backup Gardner, I believe his name is.
Yeah.
We saw what he could do at the quarterback position. Not too shabby, but really just not the same with Denard Robinson not running that offense. I don't expect Michigan to really be too much of a threat. I can see them, being average in the Big Ten this season and maybe finishing just outside the top 25. Boise State, a lot of people, I don't know too much about them. They're always ranked.
Smurf turf.
Yeah, they're ranked every single darn season.
They're always up there. I mean,
They always have a bad kicker.
Yeah, they always have a bad kicker to kill it for them, isn't that right? But I expect Boise State to have another solid season. Mountain West Conference, not that strong. TCU, heads up for them for moving to the Big 12.
Yeah.
They have Casey Paul Hall, their quarterback, who was suspended for the majority of last season.
They got a rough
TCU,
opener though.
It's gonna
Cowboy Classic playing LSU.
That's going to
and
be
Dallas.
a fun game. That's going to be a fun game to watch. But if somehow TCU can come away with that opening week victory, I think they're on their road to the BCS, to a BCS bowl. And then of course you got UCLA returning their freshman quarterback Brett Hundley, who's going to be a sophomore. A lot of question marks at USC. I see him going 8-4 this season.
Running back.
What?
We got Silas Red.
It's got Silas.
He's going to be returning. I mean, he's arguably had a good year last year.
He's gone. He went to.
Yeah, Silas Red's gone.
Silas Red is gone.
Silas Red's gone. All you got is Marquise Lee.
Oh yeah,
who's
Marquise.
taking core. A lot of question marks at the quarterback
Mac
position.
Whittick,
I don't really like the way USC.
I was surprised by USC being above Oregon State in that.
Oh, me too.
I mean, Oregon State went 9-3 last year. It shocked a lot of people. They don't have a lot of difficult away games. I mean, honestly, this is their hardest game is at Oregon, Civil War game. But other than that, their hardest game is going to be at Arizona State. I mean, they have Stanford and USC at home, and stuff can happen in Ranger Stadium. But it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it's
and
gonna be,
I think they can shock some people.
It's the greatest 3 months of the year. A lot of people call it. Can't wait for college football to kick off.
Yeah, good talk for the college football preseason top 25. And now we're going to be moving over.
Back with Nick Aguilera, our host for tonight. And,
all right, so we're going to wrap it up with the gem of the night. We're going to go with our NASCAR analyst from National Sports, James McDaniels. He's going to be debating against Carl Mogline, Jason Gerline, and Daniel Levy if NASCAR is a real sport.
Just to make a note, Jason Gerline is actually moderator on this. He is not personally adding opinions to this.
Except for one part. We'll find that out later in the show. So,
all right, now
let's get ready to rumble.
Because this is obviously an old-time boxing match.
Okay, let's start. In one corner, we have the NASCAR analyst, the man, the legend. It's James McDaniels. Woo! In the other corner, the double team, the kids from the north, the kids from the northwest. It's Daniel Levy and Carl
Mulligan.
Miguelin. Let's start it off. James, why the heck is NASCAR a sport?
Okay, so I've got a few reasons already up my belt to explain why one of the biggest sports in the nation should be considered a sport. Number one, I actually have a definition of sports, but I will get to that later. First off, I just want to go through some basic common sense. First off, when you go to any of the big sports websites, say CBS Sports or ESPN, Yahoo Sports, all those different sports websites.
I got a rebuttal to that one.
Yeah? Which one?
Did you know that ESPN covers the World Series of Poker? Now that's actually a really difficult sport. Obviously, I mean dealing all that.
But
stuff.
the point is, it's a sport. The point of
no,
the
it's not a sport. That's what I'm saying.
You just said it was a sport.
No, I made a joking reference that it was sarcasm.
Well, anyway, on any of the sports websites that you go and see that are dedicated to sports, NASCAR has its own section. So that should be enough to tell you that it's popular enough and it has enough spectators and it has the ability and skills that it needs to become a sport. I will get that definition.
Listen, we aren't talking about popularity here. I understand NASCAR has a decent fan base. While it's, I'm not going to go into the fan base.
Okay, hold on.
The attendance numbers have been
I have got the definition.
Exactly.
I've got a definition of a sport right here.
Wait. Let me just finish my point on popularity. Popularity is not the argument here. NASCAR has a fan base. There's no doubt about it. Just like the World Series of Poker has a fan base. Just like professional bowling has a very small fan base. These aren't sports. These are events. These are things this is competition. That doesn't mean it's a sport.
But just like the NBA or just like the MLB or just like the NFL or NHL, at the end of the season you have a champion that's going to be going home.
Yes, but so is you also. Did you know in the Spelling Bee Championship now that's also shown on ESPN? Yes. They have a champion, which obviously makes it a sport.
I want to point out something. Of course, James knows is about the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. The Brickyard 400 brought in 75,000 spectators. Seems like a lot, but it's less than 25% of the capacity at the Brickyard. So,
and what year was that?
That was this year.
Oh, that was this year for the Brickyard 400.
Yep.
All right, pretty good numbers. All right,
that's not good numbers.
Pretty good numbers. It's 25% of the.
I know. That was to compliment him for finding that information. All right, I will take it.
The Phoenix Coyotes somewhere taking some that.
I will admit that NASCAR has been going down in popularity since about the 90s. They have been going down in popularity, but there are still thousands and thousands and thousands of fans, like you just said, 75,000 that went to the Brickyard 400.
Okay.
I didn't even get to the definition of a sport yet. All right.
I would love to I would like to listen to your definition and then go to my personal definition of the sport.
That's not your personal definition.
No. This is a dictionary definition. Actually, I have multiple definitions. I could use all sorts of definitions.
All right, you try it. All right.
My first definition. This is the definition: an activity involving physical exertion and skill in which an individual or team competes against another or others. I just do not find this. There's not enough physical exertion in this. It might tire you out or whatever, but it does not take strength to do this. I can turn left. I can turn left all I want.
You realize they also turn right, right? All right. Number one, they also turn right at road courses.
Two races a year.
Yeah, but they still turn right, as opposed to everybody who says they turn left all the freaking time.
They do. Right?
Yeah, almost all the time, but not all the time.
Okay.
That's not the argument
the Brickyard 400, they would turn left.
Not the argument.
They would turn left 1,600 times.
That is not okay. The argument about how many times to turn right and
left
is not the argument.
Crazy.
That is not the argument. All right. This is what the definition. This is another definition of a sport. All right. A sport is all forms of usually competitive physical activity which, through casual or organized participation, aim to use, maintain, or improve physical ability and skills while providing entertainment to participants and, in some cases, spectators. Well, let's see. Number one, this is a form of entertainment.
That's an accurate definition of a sport. I think that everything that was said there does go into what a sport is. And the reason NASCAR isn't a sport is because there's very little physical exertion.
There is physical exertion in NASCAR. Did you know that you can lose up to an average of 10 pounds a race?
That's actually
Did you seriously know that?
That has been proven.
All right,
I want to say that's been proven. That's been proven false.
Oh yeah?
I saw a study proving that false.
All right. Well, okay. I'll give my own experience.
The mere fact that the sole purpose of NASCAR is using a machine to drive around a track means that it's not a sport.
It takes skill.
I'm not saying it doesn't take skill.
There's you've got all of these amazing sports that everyone loves. Track and field, football, hockey, baseball, all of these sports require actual people doing work.
You know how much strength you got to have to handle those cars? It takes a lot of strength. I'm going to tell you, I've been a kart racer, so I race karts, all right? And these are like actual racing karts, so I kind of know what drivers have to feel. And I'll tell you, 15 minutes in a cart and my upper body is so strained because I have to use all my energy to turn that car around.
You have to turn left very hard.
Same thing with a NASCAR, right? If it's very tight, you're going to have to turn that wheel all the way to the left if you're turning left, or all the way to the right if you're turning right. Also, all right? If you're loose, you got to be very careful about how hard you turn that wheel, or else you're going to spin.
I'm not
All
saying
right?
it doesn't take skill. I'm just saying it doesn't take this incredible physical ability you're talking about. I like Daniel to
You
comment
have
on
to
that also.
you build up strength through using your upper body muscles to turn the wheel in the direction
So-
you're doing, because you're going at 190 miles an hour and you're working with a car that you don't know how it's going to work at the beginning of the race. It could be loose, it could be tight. You have to how do I
Adjust.
describe it?
Here's the
Adjust
problem.
to it.
Look,
You have to like get into the car and be able to.
But I'm not saying that's not true. I'm just saying it doesn't take this physical ability you're talking
It
about.
does take physical ability to drive a car. All right, I guarantee you, a guy with no limbs will not be able to drive NASCAR. All right.
okay, that might have
But
just
I can
won
drive
the
a
debate right there.
I'm just kidding. Because guess what? A person without arms also cannot drive a normal car. And I'm not saying this, but I'm saying driving to work, personally, I do not think that's a sport. Although some people may, and I mean, rush hour
Well, the
traffic
reason-
in LA
the
can be
re-
nasty.
The
It's
reason
not a
why
sport.
the reason why it's not a sport is because it doesn't draw spectators. NASCAR has spectators, thousands and thousands and thousands.
What about
But
all
not
the
as
other
much
people
drama.
sitting in traffic?
Are you saying,
Okay,
wait, also no.
let's be honest here. The only reason we watch NASCAR is for the crashes. All honesty.
And close finishes.
Who
all right?
watches the close finishes? No one cares
Close
about
finish.
Jimmy Johnson winning the Brickyard. We care about Earl Hart.
I mean, they do get that milk.
The Martian brothers get into a multi-car crash with 13 killed. That's what we care about.
13 kills in the car record.
I
Are you
would-
kidding me?
And by 13 killed,
I would
mean
like
no one
Daniel.
killed.
Daniel,
When
you
did that
should
happen?
explain your
When did
milk.
I dare you find when that happened. 13 people.
I didn't
killed in
say
that
it's
car.
real. I said just an example. And there were 13 killed. I'm saying we watch it for the crashes. I mean, honestly, who wants to watch cars go around for 200
Because
2 hours?
you watch the battles, you watch how the drivers are able to relate to their cars and be able to race.
I should watch most of the pony
It's
shows.
a
Then, 'cause they
serial
relate
killer.
really well to their ponies. I mean, that's really good relation.
Look, we're boys, we're not girls, okay? Okay, that's one thing, okay?
If being
And then-
incest, if having,
And then we also watch
if
close
incest
finishes,
and
all right?
NASCAR are the
We
biggest
also watch
sports
close
in the
finishes.
South, then I'm okay with that.
We also watch close finishes, all right?
That's not the
Who
biggest sport in
watches
the
those
South.
finishes? I've
College
never seen-
football is the biggest
I've never
sport in the
seen
South, and that's a
anything.
fact.
Okay, anyway.
Well, yeah, it could be in the South because
everyone shut up.
NASCAR is in the East. It is a major
My friend, okay.
East sport, all right? Did
Yeah,
you notice that about 75% of the tracks come from between Virginia and New York? Tracks around that area?
Okay,
Michigan?
fine. I'm still saying others.
All there.
There's so many
There's only
sports
a
bigger
few
than that.
tracks
I
out
promise
west.
you. I promise
Hey,
you.
hey,
All four major
excuse me.
sports, college football, college basketball are bigger than
Excuse
that.
me.
I bet you MLS is bigger than that.
Yeah, it is. Actually, it is.
Well, okay,
My friend-
well, soccer
my friend
is a big old
Nick-
sport,
My
right?
friend Nick here.
How's it going?
Do you watch ESPN for close finishes? Are you like, I can't wait to get home? Close finishes. NASCAR just finished today. Let's go.
No, I come home to see A, who won, and B, if there was a crash.
See, people don't even watch it. They just look at the highlight box to see if there was a crash.
Wow, no.
Half the fans of NASCAR anyway are just watching it for Danica Patrick. I mean, let's be
no.
honest.
Fans are gonna watch the NASCAR race because in order to, like, a lot of people are fantasy. Like you have fantasy.
Yes, they fantasize about Danica Patrick.
No. You have like fantasy basketball.
Yes, that's
In
what I do too.
NASCAR, they have fantasy NASCAR, and what they do is that every week you take a driver they have yet to select during the season, and what you do is you pick the driver that you think that you still have left, who you think is going to finish best or possibly win the event.
Well,
you have to watch races to know how they get
Hey,
that
I
track.
play fantasy. I could play fantasy poker, and that would be the same
Okay,
thing.
Fantasy poker.
clicking through
I'm
the
gonna bring
remote
the
to
guy-
find the NASCAR race on television.
Okay, if
it's probably
NASCAR was not big, why in the heck did NBC not turn NASCAR down when they got the opportunity?
Can I say something on ESPN? On NBC, you can watch tons of things, and it doesn't just show sports. Think about that. They show all types of events as well, and also it doesn't have to be. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Also, sport, you said it requires an audience or something like that. That's not true. You look at it like a short. Say croquet is a sport. It doesn't have audiences or anything. I mean, you don't get big crowds coming to croquet.
Oh yeah, how much physical skill does that take? You're
Croquet,
hitting the ball with a freaking croquet. Or whatever it is.
Hey, sport does not need an audience. North Korea played a game in Thailand with no audience.
Look,
there.
both of our definitions said that they are played for in front of an audience.
No, that's not true. That's nothing different. If I play a soccer game with a friend and we're just playing, we're still playing a sport. I'm not, even though if it's not in front of a ton
An
of people.
audience does not define a sport.
Then why does that? Okay, look. Okay, if racing was not popular, why does almost everybody do it?
It's popular.
They race like you'll race to the car. You'll race
racing
to,
is popular.
Running.
You'll have street racing, things like that. It's like saying street racing's not a sport.
All right, we got
And street racing
a
isn't-
special guest coming in. This is Chris. Chris, please say your opinion.
NASCAR, there's no audience. They sell
No audience.
those
There
tickets.
is not.
There is an audience. You
There's
have
an
to agree with
audience.
that.
Okay, 25%. That's what I heard.
No, that was from that one
Less
track.
than 25%.
All right, that's from that one
That's
track.
the most famous track.
That's
too.
that's the
That's
most.
a
Well, yeah,
two-roll.
no,
The most tickets sold.
Daytona's
I'm
the
just
most
gonna
famous
go
track.
NASCAR.
In NASCAR, the Daytona 500 is the most famous race of the NASCAR season. Maybe the first race of the season, but that is the biggest race of the year.
Okay, that's one of the bigger races.
Would you-
So-
okay,
No,
let
it
me
is
just
the
say-
biggest race.
Let
It
me
is
just
the
say,
biggest race. It is the Super Bowl of NASCAR.
Brickyard, I'm saying, is one of the biggest races.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's one of the races you'd like to win. That's for sure. It's just like Darlington, or winning the All-Star race, or winning at Charlotte.
Let me
Or winning
just say,
any race at
NASCAR
Daytona
has
or
a
Talladega.
rapidly declining fan base.
Yeah.
The numbers do not lie. There are more and more people who are turning off the channel for NASCAR.
And I'll tell you why. All right?
It's boring.
It's boring. It's not a
It is
sport.
boring.
There we go.
You
Okay,
could
hold on,
watch
hold on.
NASCAR. You can watch the first two laps. You could
I
watch.
come home to
Please.
watch NASCAR. Okay, but here's
You could
But look,
watch
here's
the
the case.
first 30 minutes of a NASCAR race, go away and do something else for an hour or two, and then you could come back and you wouldn't have missed a freaking thing.
I won't say right.
So
But
true.
what was that question that you pointed out earlier? I said I was going to answer like directly right back in your face. What was it?
I don't know. I think I'm pretty sure that Levy has had many
Fan base
points, and they've all been
declining.
very good points, and I think that shows how well he's been arguing this.
Okay, look. Here's the only thing I got about this. You guys are focusing so much on the physical ability part.
But that's the main part of a sport. That's
Yeah,
the main part of the definition of a
No,
sport.
no. NASCAR takes skill. NASCAR has an audience. It's a considered
That doesn't
a form
matter.
of entertainment. It has three of the
Poker,
four things.
entertainment.
It has three of the four
Okay,
things.
here we go.
That's three
Can
of the
I say
four.
something?
Poker takes skill.
Poker takes skill. Poker has an audience. Poker.
I
is
dare you guys to
entertaining.
drive a NASCAR, and then you'll.
I'm not saying it doesn't take skill.
No.
No,
NASCAR
physical
takes
ability. No.
No.
I guarantee you, when you get out of the NASCAR after driving
It
it
is.
around
You
Daytona,
wanna
even
put it out
Daytona,
there?
an easy track like
By
Daytona,
your-
all
by
you do
your
is press the throttle the
definition,
whole way.
I think Daryl.
If you
I
go
would
20
like to-
minutes, I guarantee you will get out of the car and you're going to be aching.
I'm sorry.
I
I'm
guarantee
sorry.
you.
By your definition, wouldn't stripping be considered a sport?
Stripping? How is stripping a
It
sport?
has
Well,
an
it's
audience.
done.
How is it an audience?
It takes some skill.
You're done.
How?
That's
No.
a
The same skill it takes to strip is the
Okay.
same amount of physical ability it takes to drive a map.
Oh no!
Oh, it does?
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay,
You're
yes.
saying stripping's not a
Yes, same
sport.
amount.
You just said stripping's not a sport, and
Yeah,
and NASCAR takes the same amount of exertion,
stripping is
so
not-
NASCAR's not a
that's
sport.
the game.
And that is obvious
Stripping's
that
not
this is
sport.
not a sport. Thank you for watching. We will be back tomorrow with NS Sports Day 3. Thank you for listening to this episode. Good night.